repairing driveways for more than 50 years. The Morning Buzz with Kat Peterson on Cities 92.9.
A new Illinois law recommends Illinois schools actually implement something called a yearly mental health screening for students enrolled in K through 12th grade. So this is a law. It doesn't mandate it or anything. I would, if you're a parent, call your school, ask if they are going to be implementing this. This is supposed to be phased in the fall. So spoke with Regan Deering. She's a Mount Zion School Board member. She's also a state house candidate in the 88th. And she said that there's going to be these new mental health screenings, and it's a government expansion program. And it's supposed to be phased in this fall, where the school, via administrator, they are going to be conducting a yearly mental health screening for students enrolled in K through 12th grade. So this is called an Illinois Youth Survey, and it can be administered to middle school and high school students. That's where I kind of see an issue here. There's public, you can issue it in public schools and private schools. That's what the law says. It recommends it. It does not mandate it. That's very important. And there's been various schools, Regan Deering says, that have already opted into this. So I would not be shocked if Bloomington Normal Schools opted into this. I'd have to do some digging, find out if they did. But a lot of the schools that have opted in for the comprehensive sex education standards, that that was a huge conversation we had a couple of years ago. That's SB Senate Bill 188 or 818 or something like that. It was the comprehensive sex education. And now there's this survey, and they're going to be issuing this survey yearly to kids K through 12th grade. So you're probably wondering what's on the survey. Well, the survey asks questions about gender, drug use, and family dynamics. And they're a little invasive. One question, uh, it says that will be asked of eighth graders. This is on the eighth grade survey, the survey designed for Illinois eighth graders. Uh, here's the question: is there an adult other than your parent you could talk to about important things in your life? So my main concern and what Regan Deering's concern was, she said that obviously there is a gold standard that we need to follow when conducting things like mental health surveys or mental health screenings. We should be having professionals conduct these surveys, and perhaps there should be a professional evaluation. I think that it's one of these things where the kids, they come into a classroom, the teacher issues the survey, and then the kids fill out the survey and turn it into the teacher. Uh, and the questions are just a little too invasive for my liking to have it issued that way. Perhaps a mental health professional, should sit down with the students one on one. If we're pushing surveys in schools, what does that delivery look like? And we should be having qualified individuals issue these surveys. And Regan Deering says that it doesn't look like, with this new recommended guidelines coming down from the state about these mental health screenings, it doesn't look like it has to be administered by some sort of mental health professional, somebody who's credentialed. This is going to be administered by staff members, and informal health providers. So Regan Deering, she asked her superintendent, because she's a school board member. So remember, folks, the school board member works for you on behalf of the people. That's an elected position. And the superintendent actually is, decided on by the school board. They decide salaries and things like that for the superintendent. So she approaches the superintendent. At least she said she did. And he said that he didn't hear about the surveys yet, and that the administration was not intending to utilize the Illinois Youth Survey. So Regan Deering says that, the superintendent's response was that he hadn't heard of it yet. And, my assumption is going to be that a lot of schools haven't heard about this recommended health screenings to be implemented. This is a state law. This is already law. Of what the law does, it recommends that schools go through with these yearly mental health screenings. And the state partnered with the University of Illinois, their Center of Prevention, Research, and Development, and they are going to be collecting the data. So now the question becomes, okay, these are pretty invasive questions. It deals with gender, what gender you are. It deals with, sex. It deals with family dynamics. These are very invasive questions, very personal questions. Where is that data going? Say your kid gets this gets the survey, the kid fills out the survey. Where are his or her answers going? Well, the University of Illinois research team, the center there, the Center for Prevention, Research, and Development, is going to be able to access that data, and school administration is going to access that data. So Deering said that she's relieved that this law is only recommendations, and they only recommend these screenings, and they don't mandate them. So a lot of parents are saying, hey, there's this big shift and they're worrying about my kids' feelings, their mental health. And I feel, me as a parent, I have a right and a responsibility um, of family. And I am the one who should be in charge of making some mental health decisions for my child and evaluating or getting my child the mental health help that he or she needs. Every family situation is different. This is what Regan says. And of course, staff and administration of all Illinois schools, they want to see well rounded students. She says that she does see how a conversation or a discussion about taking care of our kids is important, but this is a slippery slope. We're starting to see more and more legislators take stances on things like, hey, they're blurring that line, that parental rights line, and they're pushing these things in public schools. Whereas some parents believe that, hey, I'm in charge of my child's mental health, just like I'm in charge of their physical health. I'm in charge of their mental health. So Deering says that parents need to be a big part of the process here, and there is going to be an Illinois Youth Survey coordinator at your child's school. And what's important is if you're a parent and you want to opt out of this mental health screening, you can do that via a form. So you can be a big part of that process and complete a form with your signature on it. And you turn the form in, and the Illinois Youth Survey Coordinator is supposed to opt out your child and ensure that your child does not participate in these yearly mental health screenings. So well, you're probably wondering to yourself, okay, obviously this takes a lot of money. They built the studies and they're paying these, Illinois youth survey coordinators. Where did the money come from? The money came from the ESSER funds. So that's COVID dollars, and those COVID dollars are going to be expiring in September of 2024. And the law even goes further, folks. And I didn't even get into this, and I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty about what the law says here, but this is interesting. The law says that minors ages 12 through 17, they have the right to assess and authorize release of their own mental health records, of their mental health records. Parents have rights to the minor's records only if the minor does not object or if the therapist feels there's a compelling reason to override the minor and to give that over to the parents. It used to be, from what I understand, parents had the rights to their minors' records always. And the 12 through 17-year-olds, they did not have the authority to release their own mental health records because, they are of an age where, you're going through some mental health problems as a 12-year-old, and you authorize the wrong person to have access to your mental health records. Your parent was typically the person to make that decision for you, being that your mental health isn't good and being that you are a minor and you might not be able to make that decision about who to release your records to. So, yeah, this law It's crazy. I don't even know why it exists. We shouldn't be partnering with the University of Illinois Center of Prevention and Research to do this. I just wanted to let you know that that law exists and you should be prepared come this fall if you're a parent uh, to either opt into this or opt out. And you should, as a parent, be proactive and read what is in the Illinois Youth Survey. I've got plenty of questions that are on this survey. If you want the form to opt out, you can text me at 309-451-9299. I will send you that form, and I will send you what the survey is all about and what questions are asked. A lot of the questions are invasive in nature, and they talk about drug use, gender, suicide. They're very tough questions to ask of an eighth grader in a setting where a teacher just issues it, staff issues it very informally. So yeah, I needed to tell you guys about that this morning. I thought that that was a very important story to get to. I've got so much to get to. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Kat Peterson. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. And man, very foggy out there this morning. It was a or it was a 36 degrees. It's kind of warm, but there's a lot of fog, dense fog. So be safe out there. What are we going to be talking about this hour? First, I want to get to something that the globalists they've found something else to take away from you. They don't want you to have meat. They don't want you to have zins. Yesterday, I talked about how, if there's something Americans enjoy, there's a progressive out there somewhere who wants to ban it. Yesterday, I talked about Chuck Schumer wanting to ban the Zin pouches. They're after the Zins. But now the globalists, they're after something else, your morning cup of coffee, because it emits too much carbon. So I'm going to be chatting a little bit about that. President Donald Trump scored a very amazing, like a huge victory Tuesday night in New Hampshire, and he set a new record. So I'm going to talk about the new record that he set, and then I've got to get to this guy. He's an LA Times editor, and he's demanding that these ex-Californians stop saying mean things about the state when they move. Yes, actually, a guy who writes for LA Times said that. He goes, "Stop being mean to California. Stop saying mean things." All right, I'll be back in just a little bit. You're listening to The Morning Buzz. As always, I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the men in America unless you want to get the benefit.
Wait, one more time?
We'll
Let's take
teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the men in America unless you want to get the benefit.
one more time.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the men in America unless you want to get.
Okay. I don't know what he was saying. Even with my slur corrector on, it doesn't make sense. So I think what he was trying to say, don't mess with the men and women of America unless you want to see the benefit. See, even with my slur corrector on and my Bidenese translator on, I just I just can't. It doesn't make sense. Still, don't mess with the men and women of America unless you want to see the benefit. That does that make sense? Turn duper the pressure. That was Biden 2020. Uh, you guys remember that one? This one is really bad. The men of America. I don't know. I don't know. We'll teach Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with. I've got my slur corrector on. I've got my Bidenese translator, and it still doesn't make sense. So this morning, I've got so much to get to. You can find me live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. A couple of things I want to hit this morning. The globalists, they have found something else they want to take away from you. Your morning cup of coffee. And I've got my morning cup of coffee right here. Grab yours. We've got to dig into that story. Plus, Trump set a new record in New Hampshire. And we're going to rip on this little LA Times editor because he's demanding that you stop saying mean things about California. Stop saying mean things. Okay, so if it's something that Americans enjoy, there's a progressive out there who wants to ban it, and or they're going to call it racist. If you enjoy it, most likely they're going to call it racist, or they're going to try to ban it. Yesterday, I talked about Zyn pouches and how Chuck Schumer is trying to ban Zyn pouches. Uh, Men typically over the age of 18, they enjoy Zyn pouches. It's like dip, but nicotine, and you put it in between your mouth and your teeth there. But the same is true on the global scale. Okay, there's if there's something Americans enjoy, they're gonna ban it. The progressives will ban it, and we are seeing this at the annual globalist conference in Davos, Switzerland. And this conference is put on, of course, by the World Economic Forum. And if there's citizens, if there is something that citizens, us plebs, if there's something that we enjoy anywhere, like freedom, and like Zyn pouches, like meat, we like meat. They want to get rid of meat. They want us to eat crickets. The World Economic Forum wants to take it away. If we enjoy it, they want to take it away, and they'll claim that you'll be happier without it. Okay. If you like owning a house, if you like owning a car, if you like ownership of your life, and if you like freedom, they want to take that away, and they're going to claim that you're going to be happier without it. So the latest thing on the list is actually coffee. Hubert Keller, he's a Swiss banker here, folks, and he says that he's passionate about sustainability, and he's calling for an environmental transition and to be more in a more inclusive economic framework. Okay. And he says that your coffee is destroying the planet, which at this point, I don't know what do we enjoy that isn't destroying the planet? Okay, we like our F-150s, we like our big SUVs because they work, right? And they get to cart the kids around. You get to cart them around to soccer games, and if we enjoy it, they want to ban it. And this Hubert Keller guy, he's a Swiss banker, and there's no word on how much carbon emission his private jet emitted, how much carbon his private jet emitted on the way to Switzerland. But here's what he said at the World Economic Forum. You guys won't believe it. Turn up the dial. Let's take a listen here. Here we go.
a chance to expand on that.
Basically, the coffee that we all drink emits between 15 and 20 tons of CO2 per ton of coffee. So we should all know that this is every time we drink coffee, we are basically putting CO2 into the atmosphere. The other, and one of the reasons is because most of the coffee plantation, or most of the coffee is produced through monoculture. And monoculture is also affected by climate change. The quality of these nature assets is deteriorating quite rapidly.
Okay, so this is where the left and the media, but I repeat myself, they dispatch their independent fact checkers and they claim that this is all information. And they'll say that, hey, they're not banning coffee because the World Economic Forum doesn't make laws. They're just discussing ideas. That's the excuse they gave the independent fact checker, the guy who bragged about the digital carbon footprint tracker so that way they could track what you buy, where you go. And that guy was confronted by the media and he said, oh, it's just an idea. It's just an idea. So the independent fact checkers, they're going to come out, they're going to be like, stop it. Stop saying they're going to ban coffee. Stop saying they want you to eat crickets. Stop. Because they're just discussing ideas. They're not making any kind of laws. The problem with the World Economic Forum is that they take those ideas, they find officials and bureaucrats who agree, and then they place them in government, and then they are turned into laws and policies. Okay? So that's the problem with the World Economic Forum. It'd be one thing if this was just a conference for liberals and they just sit around people and they, discuss their wacky ideas. I'd be actually okay with that. But here's where I start to have an issue. They find officials and bureaucrats, people who aren't elected, and then they place them, they install them in government, and then they turn around and then they make laws and policies that affect our day-to-day lives. I'm sorry, I'm not giving up coffee. I'm sorry, Klaus. Klaus Schwab, stop. Stop trying to take away my coffee. Okay, this is what Klaus Schwab actually said. And I'm going to do my best to what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau and so on. So we penetrate, this is like a direct quote. So we penetrate the cabinet. Halfway through those cabinets are four of are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. It's like he said. So Justin Trudeau is one of their guys. Okay? He loves the young generation, and he said that he penetrated the cabinet of Justin Trudeau, so four of young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. So it's not just an idea. When the World Economic Forum, they float this idea of genetically modifying humans. This is what the World Economic Forum wants for you. They want to genetically modify humans, get them to stop eating meat, to stop them from eating meat. They want to genetically modify you so that way you stop craving protein to survive. Okay, and then they talk about how they want AI to determine our elections. They want AI to decide who gets elected in office because the people who don't vote for the right people, they're upset that people aren't voting for the right people. So now they are going to program AI so that way you do vote for the right people, the rubber stamp people, the Justin Trudeaus of the world. Okay, so it's not just an idea when they want global currency so they can stop you from making purchases that they find undesirable. It's not just an idea. There's a group of people out there who want to control every aspect of your life, right down to the coffee you put into your mouth every morning. Okay, they're out, they're open about it, and they even tell you how they're going to do it. It would behoove everyone to pay attention to them as they do it and to recognize that this is happening. President Donald Trump, he scored a massive victory on Tuesday night, and I'm going to chat about a record he broke on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Find me on YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Cat Peterson 929. Good morning. Hey, if you're watching, smash the like button. Whenever you're here, I expect you to smash that like button. I greatly appreciate it. We're going to talk about Donald Trump and Hampshire. If you need the form to get your child out of these yearly health screenings, you can go ahead and shoot me over a text. That's 309-451-9299. I'll go ahead and send you the opt-out form. These questions are very invasive. Sometimes people are reading these questions, and they're very invasive. They deal with sex, drug use, um, who drove in the car driven by a teen driver, who had been caught drinking. Would you be caught by your parents or guardian? Do you have somebody you can talk to other than your parent or guardian, adult? Um, so, yeah, there's a lot of questions on here that are a bit invasive, and I don't think that these questions should be answered by a school staff member, an informal staff member like a teacher. These are very intense mental health questions and should be administered by a mental health. Okay, smash that like button. Share this out. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Have you got your coffee? Well, guess what? Coffee emits like 20 tons of carbon for every ton of per ton of coffee that's made. And you know what? The World Economic Forum hates you for drinking coffee. But guess what? I don't care. I'm going to drink my coffee anyway. Grab your cup of coffee because we've got lots of food to cover, lots of ground to cover. This morning I did wake up and I was like, you know what? I'm going to inform people about this story. You can find it on cities929.com. You can find it on thecentersquare.com. The state is now recommending that Illinois schools implement something called a yearly mental health screening, okay, for students. And this is a new Illinois law. It's new, and I don't think a whole lot of people know that this is happening. But it recommends that Illinois schools implement these yearly mental health screenings. And look, I am not against helping children. I am not against mental health. However, when you look at the law and you look at how they are delivering this mental health survey and what's on the mental health survey, then you begin to question, okay, are they trying to indoctrinate my children? Are they trying to turn my kids against me? There's one question, particularly, that is asked of eighth graders. Is there an adult you know other than your parent you could talk to about important things in your life? And yes, I understand the question, but this is being administered. Keep in mind, these surveys are being delivered by informal staff members. They're going to be delivered probably by a teacher. They're yearly. It's going to be phased in this fall. There is an opt out form. If you're curious about that, go ahead and text me at 309-451-9299. I can provide you the surveys, what kind of questions are on the surveys, because either way, you, the parent, should get to decide whether or not your child participates in this. If you do not fill out the opt out form and turn it in to the Illinois Youth Survey Coordinator, and to your school administration, and make it very clear that you don't want your kid to participate in the mental health screening, then you are by default, your child by default is going to have to participate in this. This is a recommended mental health screening. It's not mandated. Schools don't have to opt in. So that's another thing too. If you don't want this mental health survey to be issued at all in your school, talk to your school board members, because schools don't have to opt in. From what I understand, Mount Zion probably is not going to opt into this. I talked with Reagan Deering. She's a school board member, and she spoke with the superintendent. He hadn't heard of the surveys yet. It is very new, and the administration, he said, is not intending on utilizing the Illinois Youth Health Survey. And this survey, it talks about things like suicide. They're tough questions. I mean, I even struggle with some of them. I just don't even, I can't believe that eighth graders and high schoolers even know about some of this stuff. And it asks about gender. It asks, I mean, I think the third question is, hey, are you asexual, bisexual, gay, heterosexual, pansexual? And it's just a laundry list of what kind of gender you are, what kind of sex you like to have, and yeah, I don't know. I would opt out if I was a parent. I'm just going to be honest with you. This is my show. I would opt out if I was a parent. Yeah, because it's just too invasive of a survey to have administered by an informal staff member. If you're going to administer something like this type of survey, it should be done by a mental health professional. So if a child is struggling with some of this that is on the survey, say like suicide, perhaps the survey would be very triggering. And where would that child go if they're triggered by this survey? To the teacher who's not a mental health professional, because the teacher hands out the survey, right? There's all kinds of questions that I've got about, how this came to be, but the state did partner with the University of Illinois on this, and the University of Illinois research team and the school administration, they will have access to the data as well. So you have to keep in mind, who has access to my kid's answers. Um, it's definitely not you if your kid demands that you not have access to those answers. So the law also says that minors ages 12 through 17 have the right to assess and authorize the release of their mental health records. So this would be a mental health record, and parents have the rights to minors' records only if the minor does not object or if the therapist feels compelling reasons to override that minor. So yes, if you want access to this survey, you might not be able to obtain access to this survey because this new law says that you do not have rights to your children, to your child's mental health records anymore if that child says, I don't want you to have access to my records. So that's the law. How is this paid for? Good question. There were a lot of COVID dollars, ESSER funds, and those funds are going to be expiring. Reagan Deering, she made a great point. She said that state legislators, it's kind of nasty what they're doing here. They're taking advantage of a hot topic in mental health. They're taking advantage of of mental health, this topic, and they're continuing to push money into schools for these surveys and recommendations. And she made a great point. And plus, I don't know what they're going to do after September 2024, because that's when the ESSER funds expire. How are they going to fund this survey after this year? I don't know. We'll have to see. They'll probably take out of a different budget line item and move money around. I don't know. But you can go read it, the entire story, cities99.com or thecentersquare.com. They're both there. And we've got so much to talk about this morning. I do want to get to Donald Trump and his victory speech, or his victory speech and his victory, because he set a new record. Renowned pollster Rich Barris, he points out that Trump demolished the record for most votes ever cast in a presidential candidate for a presidential candidate in the New Hampshire primary. That's incredible for a Republican because New Hampshire, it's just loaded with independents and Democrats, and I think like 30% of the electorate is like Republican. So this was a huge victory for Donald Trump. So I'm going to talk about that record that he broke next on The Buzz. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. I wake up in the morning and I think to myself, wait a second, Kamala Harris is the second most powerful person in the country? Yes. So Kamala Harris, you won't believe it. She drops this insane claim about her Wikipedia page. Okay. So she is just over 5'4". That's how tall she is. But nobody cares in the world. You probably didn't wake up this morning and you were thinking to yourself, "Oh yeah, I wonder how tall Kamala Harris is," or I don't think you really care so much. But she really sure does care because she has it in her lack of a brain that the world is purposefully miscalculating her height to make her seem smaller. She literally said this. We're going to get to that here in the 7 o'clock hour. You're listening to the Morning Buzz. Before we took the break, I was telling you about the New Hampshire primary. This kind of went. This got lost in the shuffle of things. Trump, he actually broke a record. So he had a victory Tuesday night, and he set a new record. The renowned pollster Rich Barris points out that Trump demolished the record for most votes ever cast for a presidential candidate in the New Hampshire primary. The record was previously held by a Democrat, Bernie Sanders, 2016. In 2016, Sanders received 152,193 votes, crushing Hillary Clinton, by the way. Trump got well over that, well over. He got near 153,000 votes. So 152,500 votes is the last time I checked it, and that was before he actually won, like it was called. So he far beat Sanders' numbers or numbers in 2016. So Trump, he triumphed over his only competitor, Nikki Haley. And this win further solidifies that Trump is the GOP frontrunner. Okay, it's undisputed. And the only reason why Nikki is in the race is because she's hoping to come by this nomination dishonestly, much like why Ron DeSantis, I believe, was still in the primary when he was. Uh, Fortunately, the guy dropped out, which is great. But and if for any Republican to be in this race still with these kinds of numbers, the reason why she's still in this race is because she's hoping that Donald Trump is convicted of something, and this throws a wrench into his plans to run for the presidency. However, even if he's convicted, I'm pretty sure that he'll still run, and people will still vote for him in the mass. The masses will vote for him. But Haley, it's very clear in New Hampshire, she brought together a rally of anti-Trump. She got an anti-Trump coalition together made up of independents and Democrats. A lot of the electorate in New Hampshire is independents and Democrats, which is why Trump getting this many votes in New Hampshire is such a big deal. He broke the record. For a Republican in New Hampshire, that's huge. But anyway, she lost. She failed. She attempted to get the independents, the Democrats together to impede his progress toward the nomination. And obviously, she failed. She lost. But I want to point this out. This isn't just Nikki Haley behind this attempt of trying to get him to fail at the nomination. And this isn't just Nikki Haley building this anti Trump coalition full of independents and Democrats. It's Reid Hoffman. Look up Reid Hoffman. He's like a mini Klaus Schwab. And they want to make it look like Nikki has got all of this moderate support and independent support. And you should have heard Fox News. I mean, they were practically begging Trump to select her as the VP. And here's the thing, the globalists and the establishment, they would love nothing more than to put her as VP. And she would be the VP and she would get to undermine Trump's presidency the entire time she's VP. Or, and I know this is crazy, but I've got to say it, right? It would be very good for the establishment and for the globalists if Nikki was VP, because they could take out Trump via assassination and then they could install Nikki as the globalist pick, and she would get us into all kinds of. She's the America last candidate, and they want an America last candidate. All right, I got to take a break. We're back in the 7 o'clock hour. Cities 92.9. Hey, good morning, Henry. Nice to see you this morning. We've got Bob in this morning. The survey will inform the powers just how far their indoctrination has gone. Yeah, really, it's not a survey for the kids. It's probably a survey to try to gauge to see how far their indoctrination is gone and how well their indoctrination of the children is going. Yes, and there was a text I actually got from a listener, and I'll pull this one up. I really enjoy it, the imagery um, here that he uses. It's like mold on bread. So you take a piece of bread out of the oven, and there's this tiny little spot of mold on it. You cut it off, and you're supposed to cut it off, and the bread stays fresh and new and nice. But if there's a little bit of mold on it, you can't take that mold away unless you go to cut it off. But mold, as soon as it's there, it starts to just mold this entire piece of bread or strawberries. If there's one strawberry, then it's molds the entire piece of bread. Their suggestive questions on this survey is like that mold. Once you start to suggest things or ask them things that are super invasive or ask them things that, I mean, I'm a 24-year-old woman and there's things on that survey that I've never seen before. And I had to look up a couple of things. It asks very intense questions about drug use, which I found very interesting, asking the kids if they take methamphetamine, and it asks about, prescription drugs. And I just, at that age, I don't think I would have been able to name all of those drugs that are listed. I mean, it asks you, do you take this drug, this drug, this drug, this drug, this drug? And I was like, I don't even know what half of these drugs are. As a 24-year-old woman, right, who reads the news and reads a lot of it, right? So it's like, I don't know why we're asking seventh and eighth graders these questions. And there's this one question that particularly rubs me the wrong way. Do you have an adult in your life other than your parent who you can talk to about things? And that's driving a wedge, right? Between it almost is a suggestive question where it says, hey, maybe you should have a, a an adult in your life that's not your parent that you can talk to and can confide in. And kids, they've got to be very leery of strangers, okay? When I was growing up, my mom always said, "Hey, don't talk to strangers, stranger danger." Uh, when you give all of your pearls to, these people who you don't know, and I mean, there should be this barrier, right? You don't want to unveil all of these things about yourself to somebody that you don't trust. And you should be very careful about who you trust with certain information. Okay. Um, and I trust God with all of the information, right? God sees everything, He knows everything about me. And then obviously the pyramid goes, you've got your family, maybe a spouse that you confide in. Um, and then you've got a couple of good best friends that you can confide in. So you've got to be very careful about who you just unveil all of this information to. And, I'm not like, I mean, I'm pretty personal with you guys. You guys know a lot about my life, but also, I'm very careful about who I trust with certain information about my life. Um, I don't tell you guys, I tell you guys I live in Lincoln. I don't tell you because we've never met in person. I don't tell you my address. I don't ask you to send me Christmas cards, right? Um, I don't tell you, where you can find me. So there's all kinds of things in this survey that freak me out when it comes to, this suggestive nature. Hey, are you asexual? Maybe you're bisexual. Maybe you're pansexual. A lot of these kids, they didn't even really know. I didn't know any of those. I don't know if any of them, or if the kids, maybe they do. I don't know. I haven't been in school in a very long time, but I still don't know all of these different sexual orientations, and they list like probably about 5 to 7 sexual orientations that you can identify with. And yeah, this is a disturbing survey. So I'm glad that I talked about it this morning. We're going to chat a little bit about this LA Times editor. He's imploring ex-Californians to stop insulting the state. That's pretty funny. And then we're going to get to Kamala Harris, who's just over 5'4". That's how tall she is. But nobody in the world cares. Okay. But she cares. Her and her lack of a brain. This is she's convinced that the world is purposefully miscalculating her height on Wikipedia. So it's interesting. And this is what you get when you have an affirmative action pick. Okay. When you have somebody whose entire life is determined on uncontrollable things like your hair color, your skin color, what gender you are. That's totally uncontrollable. You can't control your height. You can't control um, your skin color. Okay. Um, this is what happens. You get people in office who are obsessed about things that they can't control. And the reason why they obsess over that kind of thing is because they don't have to be held accountable for anything. That's why they obsess about the uncontrollable. Smash that like button if you're watching. I'll be right back. Woohoo! Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Yes, we're going to talk about Kamala Harris. She drops this insane claim about her Wikipedia page. She says that the entire world is purposefully miscalculating her height to make her seem smaller. Yes, she actually said that in her lack of a brain, she is so concerned about what the world thinks about her height. Nobody cares about how tall you are, Kamala Harris. We're going to talk about it here on the Morning Buzz. And before we took the break, I was telling you guys a little bit about the really it's a anti-Trump coalition being built by Nikki Haley and people like Reid Hoffman. Reid Hoffman is a globalist. He's like a mini Klaus Schwab, and they want to make Nikki look like the moderate candidate. And the reason for this, of course, is because the globalists and the establishment, they would love nothing more than Nikki to be the VP pick. She's not going to be the VP pick. Trump already knows who his VP is, and I don't think it's Nikki at all. But they would love to see Trump install Nikki as the VP because then she can undermine his presidency while she's VP. And then, hey, if we take out Donald Trump via assassination, we've got our globalist pick. We've got our America last president, like we wanted. So, following Trump's victory, Haley doubled down, saying that that the race is still on, and she said to her supporters that this race is far from over. Haley thinks that she's going to be able to take Donald Trump out, or she's going to be able to be the nominee because these establishment types are going to try to wrongly convict a former president, and they're going to try to take out the political opposition, which is Donald Trump. And make no mistake, it's not the Democrats, it's the Yankees, the Cowboys, the establishment, the Uniparty does not want Donald Trump in there. I've talked about how they took out JFK. They assassinated JFK because he would not be goaded into war. He would not go into war. He would not go to war with Russia. And LBJ swooped in there, and he and the CIA, they worked together to undermine his presidency, to lie to him. This intelligence agencies, they gave him poor information. And they tried to get him to go to war with Russia, and he just wouldn't do it. So they ended up having to kill him. The CIA and LBJ together, they worked to kill JFK because he was a nationalist, populist president who would not go to war. He was about peace. And they don't like that because then they don't get money. Okay. The Yankees, the Cowboys, the big Texas oil, the military industrial complex Republicans. And then you've got the globalists, big banks, stock market type Democrats, the Yankees. So you've got the Cowboys and the Yankees, and they are pals in this situation. They're the uniparty, and they want to take out Donald Trump. Okay, so Haley doubled down on this, and she said that the race is far from over, and she's going to stay in this race, folks, I think, because she wants to see if Donald Trump is taken out by the uniparty. So she had an astounding 70%, or these 70% of Haley voters, they were not Republicans. They were independents and they were Democrats. Let's take a listen here to this clip. This was actually on CNN. They talked about an exit poll. I'm going to play this clip. Here we go.
Voters, 70% of them, according to our exit polls, are registered Republicans. Donald Trump, his support, 27% of his voters are registered undeclared or independents. 3% were unregistered before today. Look at how that compares with Nikki Haley. It's a complete reversal. It's an alternate universe. Among Haley voters, 70% are registered undeclared. Only 27% are registered Republicans.
So there you have it. That's the numbers. That's the breakdown. And this shows how hard they tried to rig that primary against Donald Trump, or they rigged that primary, the New Hampshire primary. What are they going to do in the general election? If they tried that hard in New Hampshire, in a primary, in a Republican primary to take out Donald Trump, what are they going to try in the general election? So the tradition of the Democrat Party is to fix an election. Okay, they were trying to fix the election where they crossed over into the other party's primary to rig it with undeclared voters. And, you know, I'm not shocked. I can't say that I'm shocked because that is the tradition of the Democrat Party with the help of their rhino governor. They're in New Hampshire, and this dishonest effort to influence the primary that the Uniparty couldn't win. So, they still, even with all of this, with the help of the rhino governor, with this dishonest effort to influence the primary with the Uniparty and with the undeclared voters, they still couldn't win. They cheated and they lost. Okay, so don't mess with Donald Trump. I'm telling you, because I think he's got the power of God behind him. I think God, people pray for Donald all of the time. And, even despite all of this rigging, he still managed to win. So I do want to play this. This is a clip from Vivek, and this just sums it all up beautifully. What we saw in New Hampshire. Here we go. Let's take a listen.
What we saw tonight is America first defeating America last. That's what we saw tonight.
I love it. Yes. So let me know in the comment section if you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble this morning. Who do you want for VP? I want Vivek Ramaswamy. Text me 309-451-9299, and we'll chat about who you want for VP. But I do want to switch gears here, and I want to talk about the truth, because the truth hurts. That's a very important life lesson. And, many people on the left have yet to learn this life lesson. That's why they're so obsessed with trying to criminalize, or with criminalizing hate speech, so-called hate speech, and controlling whose feelings you can or cannot hurt. Okay, that's why the left is so obsessed about this, because they can't deal with the truth. The truth hurts them so badly, and they obsess about getting or they obsess about controlling whose feelings you can and cannot hurt. So the reason truth can hurt so bad for some people is because they would rather live in la la land and disregard reality. That's why the truth hurts for the left. And that's basically what this editor did from the Los Angeles Times. He doesn't live in reality. He lives in la la land. And LA Times editor Paul Thornton, he is he implores ex-Californians to stop insulting the state. Okay, so according to Fox News, LA Times letters editor, so he's an editor, he's kind of like a columnist type guy. His name's Paul Thornton. He implored Californians leaving the state to stop criticizing it on the way out. So this is what he says. To the people leaving California, may the road rise to meet you as you seek better lives in new places. Now, can you extend some goodwill to those of us who remain? Thornton asked this in a piece that he wrote, and the headline was Commentary: If you want to leave, fine, but don't insult California on your way out. So he went on to describe the staggering numbers of Californians leaving and fleeing to other states. We're experiencing the same thing here in the state of Illinois. Go to any small town here in the state of Illinois, and you'll see businesses shuttered. You'll see, you walk into a small business and there's one guy running the counter, maybe, or maybe there's a note on the door that says, hey, out for lunch, because he's the only guy working the counter. That's because we have nobody left to run our small businesses here in the state of Illinois, because the state of Illinois sucks the life out of small businesses. Governor J.B. Pritzker sucks the life out of small businesses. And we've got big business fleeing. Nobody wants to hang out in Chicago anymore. Nobody is buying office space in Chicago anymore. They're leaving. Much like California, more than 800,000 Californians have moved away in 2022, and many thousands more left last year in 2023. Often the departees, cash in hand, this is what he says in his column, cash in hand from the sale of their $1 million bungalows, feel the need to express disdain for their home state, even some anger too. So he continues to write, look, if anyone has any doubt, I guarantee that the reason people are fleeing that state has nothing to do with what California refugees have or have not said. Okay, these 800,000 Californians, they're not fleeing because ex-Californians or former Californians are saying, hey, the state sucks, and they express disdain for their home state. That's not the reason they're leaving. Okay, these Californian refugees, whatever they have or have not said, that has nothing to do with Californians leaving. But anyway, the damage has already been done, and it's been done for quite some time, and it's been in the works for quite some time to get people to, leave the state of California. And this editor here is implying that people can't cash out on their property. And that doesn't even make a whole lot of sense to me, because he says cash in hand from the sale of their $1 million bungalows. So, he's implying that they shouldn't cash out on their property, which is just wild to me. So he goes on. Or here's Fox News. They say, Thornton went on to describe a relative of his who told him about having relocated to a small town in another state far away from being warned against bringing those weird California ways to his new neighborhood. So a relative of his probably moves to Texas or some sort of red state and lives in a small town, and a neighbor probably said, hey, keep your California ways out of this neighborhood. Okay, and this is part of Thornton's column here. He says, and which ways would those be? Keep your California ways out of here and out of this neighborhood. Which ways would those be? He asks rhetorically in this column. Perhaps it's our embrace of LGBTQ Californians, or it's our liberal politics with the state Republican Party shrunk to irrelevance after its vicious attempt in 1994 to marginalize immigrants with Proposition 187. So I don't want to get into all of that, but when people say things, don't vote the same way you did from the place you fled, that means exactly that. Okay, don't vote the same way you did from the place, or the same way you used to vote from the place you fled. Don't turn Dallas into San Francisco. Don't turn Scottsdale into Los Angeles. Okay. If you make crime de facto legal, like we have done here in the state of Illinois with the Safety Act, uh, there's a problem. Okay. In California, they've made crime legal. In Illinois, we've made crime legal. And with that, and Governor J.B. Pritzker, you have Governor J.B. Pritzker to thank, who keeps getting reelected. You have Democrats to thank for the Safety Act, and I think these things are obvious, but to liberals, they tend to suffer from something I like to call Stockholm syndrome. It's nearly impossible to make the connection that how they vote has a massive effect on the policies and the way things end up. You leave because of the crime in California. Well, why is there so much crime? Well, because California has made crime de facto legal. Okay, they're making crime legal here in the state of Illinois. Why are people leaving? The crime. Why are people leaving? The high taxes. Who makes the taxes go up? It's Governor J.B. Pritzker with his rampant spending. Okay, so we've got to understand that they are suffering. They do not make the connection that their voting record affects policies, and those policies affect the way things end up. I do have to take a quick break. You're listening to the Morning Buzz, Cities 92.9. I'll be right back. Hey, good morning. If you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. The comment section is alive and well. Good morning. I appreciate y'all tuning in each and every morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Bloomington Normal. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're back. We're going to talk about Kamala Harris and how she's upset because Wikipedia got her height wrong. Yes, then this morning, I was like thinking to myself, man, she really is the second most powerful person in the country, I guess. And this woman's bitching and moaning about her height. All right, I'm back. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. I so do appreciate y'all tuning in each and every morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time, Bloomington normal. It's foggy out there, so be safe. And don't put your brights on, or that'll come back reflecting. And I found out the hard way because my lights, they'll automatically turn the brights on. If I get so I had to turn that feature off, and it's a new car. I'm still trying to understand all the bells and whistles on it, but I had to turn that feature off this morning because as soon as those brights come on, I could not see a thing. So areas of dense fog, be safe out there. A little bit later, we're going to talk about a GOP official who was arrested because she criticized the local sheriff. This is a story out of Trumbull County, Ohio. And the judge ruled that a Trumbull County commissioner, uh, and this is the woman who got arrested, the GOP official, the judge ruled that her constitutional rights were violated when her colleagues had her arrested during a public meeting after she criticized the sheriff. So, we're going to chat a little bit about that here in the 7 o'clock hour. But before we took the break, I was telling y'all a little bit about California. So, these ex Californians, they're expressing their disdain and their anger about the state. And there's this guy. He's an LA Times editor and he's like a columnist, and his name's Thornton. And he was all upset because people are expressing their disdain for California once they leave. So 800,000 Californians moved away in 2022, thousands more left this year in 2023, this past year, 2023. And the departees, they expressed disdain for their home state. And this guy is saying, hey, stop doing that. Don't insult California on your way out. And then he talks about how he's got this relative in this column, and he talks about how the relative relocated to a small town, and the neighbor had told the relative, hey, don't bring your weird California ways into this neighborhood. Okay, there was a warning. And Thornton asks this question rhetorically in his column. He goes, which ways would that be? Perhaps it's our embrace of LGBTQ Californians. And when people say things like, don't vote the way you did from the place you fled, that means exactly that. Okay. It means don't turn Dallas into San Francisco. Don't turn Scottsdale into Los Angeles, and stop voting like an idiot. Okay. So if you're voting for crime to be legal, like people have done here, voting for Governor J.B. Pritzker, if you voted for Governor J.B. Pritzker, you're an idiot and you want to make crime legal. That's what you're voting for. With the Safety Act, you make it legal. If you vote for Dennis Tipsword, okay, again in this election cycle, you vote for him again, shame on you. You're a fool, because I've told you multiple times that this guy sponsored a bill to make it to where non-citizens get to become police officers. If you are pro 2A, do not vote for these people, because Governor J.B. Pritzker made it to where you cannot have an AR-15. Only cops can have an AR-15, and I just told you that non-citizens can become police officers. So essentially, in the state of Illinois, non-citizens can have AR-15s and you can't. Okay, stop voting this way. And if you vote this way, don't bring it to this small town where we do things the right way. Okay, and that's what this. And the problem is liberals, they suffer from Stockholm syndrome. They don't make the connection that how they vote has a massive effect on the policies and the way things end up. They think that radical rent control and asinine policies like squatter rights do not affect the rent prices. Rather, it's the greedy landlord. It's his fault. Okay. That's why the rent prices are going up. No, it's because of things like squatters' rights and all of these asinine policies, like the state of Illinois forcing landlords to, not collect rent or collect utilities. That's why rent prices have gone up. It's not the greedy landlord's fault. It's the asinine policies that we've put in place. They are convinced that all property owners are swimming in gold in California, and because they believe they do nothing all day but cash in on passive income, they have no right to their property at all. So in the column, this Thornton fellow, he says, cash in hand. Often these departees have cash in hand on the sale of their $1 million bungalows, and they feel the need to express disdain for their home state. Look, is he implying here that people shouldn't cash in on their property? Okay. And they think that, these people are just swimming in gold, these property owners, people who sell their homes and they sit around on their butt all day and they've got passive income, which isn't true. Property owners, landowners, landlords, they put in the work. Okay. And that's how dumb these people are. And the phrase, "Don't California my Texas," that's why we have that phrase. It's because they're dumb. And as I said, the truth hurts. Liberals hate it. The truth hurts. Look, people are leaving California not because, ex-Californians are expressing disdain for their home state. No, they're leaving because the policies suck and the way of life there just sucks. And if somebody says to you, "Don't California my Texas," and hey, keep your California weird ways out of this neighborhood, it means exactly that. Don't vote the same way you did from the place you fled. Okay, so I do want to shift gears. Let's talk about Kamala Harris. I'm going to take a quick break. Kamala Harris, she drops this insane claim that Wikipedia or that the world is purposely miscalculating her height. Look, nobody in the world, I'm telling you, this morning you did not wake up and you did not say to yourself, hey, I'm upset that they're not telling the truth about Kamala Harris's height. Okay, so we're going to chat about it. I got to play this clip. It's unbelievable. And, I'm thinking to myself, this woman is the second most powerful person in the country. Insane. Good morning. Hey, if you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. We're going to be back in just a little bit talking about Kamala Harris. And then you guys will really appreciate this story. A migrant in Arizona who said, "Soon you're going to know who I am." He's actually an infamous terrorist and the head of the Islamic Party of Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan. I'm trying to say that right, but he was the chairman of the Islamic Party of Azerbaijan, and he's just crossed into the United States, and U.S. law enforcement doesn't know where he's at. So we're talking about that story next. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Wow, this is incredible. Azerbaijan, the Islamic Party of Azerbaijan, the head of this Islamic Party of Azerbaijan, the chairman, he's in the United States. Yes. So, from what I understand, and this is from DC Drano, this is incredible. And they've got a lot on him. And this Muslim who's a migrant, right? Who he came out and he said, "Soon you're going to know who I am." So he was confronted at this border town in Arizona. And, this is why the Democrats are welcoming and subsidizing to invade our country. This is what they're doing. And this is disturbing. They want to destroy America. And this Muslim migrant, he says in this clip that I'm going to play for you here in just a little bit, I want to get to Kamala Harris first. He says, "You're not smart enough to know who I am, but you're going to know who I am soon, and very soon." So this is, he's a migrant who crossed into the United States illegally. He threatened a journalist, and he said, "You're going to find out who I am, and very soon." And wow, it turns out that this guy um, is actually the chairman of this Islamic Party of Azerbaijan, and his name is Movsem Sadamdov. I'm butchering that, but I really don't care because this guy's a scumbag. He was jailed for 12 years, and he was convicted of trying to overthrow the government, and he was charged with plotting a terrorist attack, illegal weapons possession, and attempting to seize power illegally. Okay, so he just got out of jail this year. I think it was in January of 2023, or in January of 2023. His release date was January 19th, 2023, and he's roaming around in the country now. So, wow, he's 12 years for arms trafficking, terrorism, and the U.S. law enforcement, they don't know where he's at. This is terrifying. This is terrifying. So we're going to get to that story here, the details of it. I'm going to play the clip for you. But first, I do want to talk a little bit about Kamala Harris, because we've got to talk about Kamala Harris and how she's just over 5'4". Okay, that's how tall she is. She's just over 5'4", but nobody in the world cares. I don't think that you woke up this morning thinking to yourself, "Man, I wonder how tall Kamala Harris is." Nobody cares, and she has such a lack of a brain that she is convinced that the world is purposely miscalculating her height to make her seem smaller. So she's upset because on Wikipedia, I guess her Wikipedia page says that she's a certain height, and she said that she's not that height. No, literally, this is what the second most powerful person in the country is talking about. She's talking about how the world is out to get her because they are miscalculating her height. Let's take a listen to the clip. Here we go.
Meanwhile, why did I think you were much taller? I recently learned you're only 5'2". Is that true?
That is absolutely incorrect.
Okay.
I am 5'4" and a quarter.
Okay, and
Sometimes
I'm 5'3".
5'4" and a half, and with heels, which I always wear, I'm 5'7" and a half. Thank you very much.
Okay, Wikipedia, you're wrong, and we need
Totally
to correct
wrong.
that.
I've said this to my team, like, what? I don't know where it came from. I was 5'2" when I was 12.
They say I'm 5'1" on my Wikipedia
How
page.
tall are you?
5'3"
Oh,
and 3/4.
Right?
And shrinking.
It's like literally, they just want to just make us smaller in every way.
I
than
know,
we
but
are.
I was excited because I'm short, and I was like, "Oh, Kamala is
No,
short
I
like
am
me."
not. I really am not. Like,
Okay.
they're just trying to take
Okay.
2.5 inches off my,
Please stand corrected.
wing. Yes, and
Yes,
we
we'll make
stand.
sure.
And
Yes, yes. Meanwhile,
What? When your whole sense of self-worth is based on insignificant, uncontrollable birth rates, like your skin color, your height, and then things like this. If Wikipedia gets your height a little bit wrong, this can crush your whole reality. You base your entire self-worth off of things that are uncontrollable, like your skin color, like your sex, and like your height. I mean, her reality is crushed. This is how fragile these people are. Their whole worldview is intentionally focused on uncontrollable things because that's how they refuse to accept accountability for anything. That's why they're so hyper focused on uncontrollable things like their height and their their skin color and their sex. And I love how she adds and a quarter, as if that matters, as if it even matters. It's logically equivalent to saying, I'm 5 3/4 when talking about your age, right? Nobody cares unless you have the maturity level of a toddler. Okay, I've heard toddlers say, I'm 5 3/4 because they really care about that sort of thing. But they have no maturity, right? they're a toddler. Seriously, people don't go on TV and add the word and a quarter. Don't go on TV and add and a quarter. And she went on TV and said this about her height. They don't do that. We don't talk about our height and say, "Oh, I'm 5'7" and a quarter." She clearly has nothing better to do than laugh about how tall she is. This is how busy she is as the second most powerful person in the country. This is why nobody likes her. She's irritating, she's terrible at her job, and that laugh does no favors for her. And Harris said that she told her team to address the incorrect height on the Wikipedia page several times, but I guess they don't see it as a priority because the height is still wrong according to her. Not that anybody will pretend to care how significant and how useless that information is, okay? Will ever pretend. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever going to pretend to say, "Oh yeah, I care about that stuff." It's so insignificant, and here she is, um, we are 3 years in. It's been 3 years since Harris was affirmatively picked based on her skin color and gender, and as it turns out, when you pick people for things as significant as their, skin color and gender, or as people for things as significant as their height, this is the best you get. They are obsessed with uncontrollable things like their sex, their skin color, their height, and it's because they don't want accountability. Okay, if they're intentionally focused on things that they can't control, that's how they refuse to accept accountability for anything. And their whole reality is based off of things like their skin color, their height, and these uncontrollable birth traits. Their whole self-worth. I mean, these people are very fragile. Okay. I do need to take a quick break, but when we come back, I'm going to get to this terrorist. This is Arizona Muslim migrant who is actually turns out to be a terrorist who is just released. He was in jail for 12 years after being convicted of things like dealing arms, weapons, illegally possessing weapons, and attempting to seize power illegally. So, yeah, that guy's roaming around in the country. So, I'm back next. Wowza. Okay, so this is an Arizona Muslim migrant, okay, who illegally crossed into the United States and he started threatening a journalist. Here's what it sounded like. Here we go.
By the way, if you are smart enough, you will know who I am. But you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're gonna know who I am. Very easy.
Wow, very easy. The entitlement.
No, believe me, I'm much better than that.
The entitlement, guys.
You
Wow.
will see soon. By the way, if you are smart.
So this was a journalist who stopped this guy at the border, and he was here. He was in Arizona in this border community, and the Muslim migrant says to the guy, "You're not smart enough to know who I am." And he goes, "But you're going to know soon who I am." And this is a guy. They're just letting these people in, and turns out we've identified the man. We know who this guy is, and it didn't take us long to find out that he was convicted of trying to overthrow the government. He was charged with plotting a terrorist attack, illegal weapons possession. He was trafficking arms, and he attempted to seize power illegally. So now Democrats, they want Islamic terrorists in our country. This is Mossam Sadamodov. I don't know what his name is, but he's the leader of an Islamic terrorist group in Azerbaijan. And he actually served 12 years after being convicted. He was just released. Okay, so his release date was actually January 19th, 2023. And we don't know where he's at. He's roaming in our country, and U.S. law enforcement, we don't know where he's at. And this is him. This is him. And this is the guy who illegally entered our country and threatened that he soon will find out who he is. So it's terrifying. This is terrifying, and this is an emergency. And I'm shocked. I really am. I wish I could say that, this guy will be found, or they're going to make it a priority to find this guy, but I don't think they will. And he's just out there roaming. Okay, I do want to shift gears. We're going to talk about this guy, the sheriff. He arrested a GOP official because this GOP official criticized him. So the judge rules that, hey, no, Mr. Sheriff, you cannot arrest people just because they criticize you. Okay, this is America. And a GOP official, she was arrested because she criticized the local sheriff. I assume that the sheriff took an oath to protect the Constitution. This means he would have broken his oath because in America, you're not allowed to abuse your power and arrest people you disagree with. I've got the clip. Here we go. Just watch how dumb this officer is. You can watch it on YouTube. You can listen right here on the radio, Cities 92.9. I've got to share this with you. This is where the sheriff comes in and starts arresting this GOP official because she starts to criticize the sheriff. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Jobs and Family Services is not posting.
Ms. Frenchco,
What?
please stand up, please.
Why?
Because I'm requesting you to stand up, please. We're not going to deal with this. You're being very disruptive. You're disrupting the meeting.
I'm
Stand
not
up. Stand up, ma'am, please. Stand up.
disrupting a meeting.
That's correct. You're being disruptive. Stand up.
You can be removed for
You
being
stand up
disruptive.
now.
The,
Being very disruptive. Put your phone down, ma'am.
why?
Put your phone down, ma'am.
This is for my safety. I'd rather go out where there's videos. Do you have a video on?
I do not.
Put your
No.
phone down.
Down. You're now under arrest for disrupting a public meeting. Phone down. We're going to place you in handcuffs. You are now under arrest for
I have.
disruption of a
Whoa, whoa,
public
whoa!
meeting.
I am. Am I gonna have a medical? Look, I have.
Do you want us to call a squad for you? Are you having a medical issue?
No.
Stand up.
If they can do this to me at an open meeting in broad daylight and violate my rights like that, it scares me to think of what they would do to someone else behind closed doors or in a dark alley.
Wow. So there it is, folks. The sheriff got his feelings hurt, and then he goes and he weaponizes these deputies to go arrest this woman because she disagreed with him. Okay, so according to Fox 8, a U.S. district judge has ruled that this Trumbull County commissioner, her constitutional rights were violated when her colleagues, her Democrat colleagues, I'm assuming, arrested her or got her to be arrested at this public meeting where she was a part of the public meeting. Okay, this was a meeting and she was criticizing the sheriff, and then they got up and they arrested her. So she says this. Her name is Nikki Frenchko. She's the commissioner out of Ohio, Trumbull County, Ohio, and she says, when I saw the decision of the judges, it was absolutely vindicating. So it cleared me of any kind of blame. So here's what the judge says. Here in America, we do not arrest our political opponents. This case tests that longstanding norm, as well as our Constitution's robust protections for free speech that allow us to criticize our representatives and public officials. So I'm going to come back. I got to take a quick break, but in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to unpack this story. I couldn't believe it. I saw the arrest and I was like, wait a second, this woman was just participating in a meeting and she was criticizing the sheriff. Yes. But that doesn't mean that you get to go up and put her in cuffs. So she was told she was disrupting the meeting by hurting the sheriff's feelings. We're going to talk about that here coming up in just a little bit, the 8 o'clock hour. Good morning. Hey, if you're watching, go ahead, smash that like button. We're going to be coming back. Henry, freedom of speech. I hope she sues them into the Stone Age. Yes. Well, we're going to pick up that story right where we left off. Nikki Frenchko. She was cuffed because she criticized the sheriff, and the judge said, hey, you know what? The Constitution has very robust protections for free speech, and it allows us to criticize our representatives and public officials. And the plaintiff, Nikki Frenchko, won election to a 3-member board of county commissioners in Trumbull, Ohio. She was an outsider and the only member of county government from her political party. And as a public official, she used her position to needle the incumbents and, in her view, hold them accountable for their decisions. I'm reading from the decision here from the judge. For their part, so he's talking about the other commissioners here, they viewed her as ignorant of basic workings of county government and a nuisance, to put it mildly. Okay, so they did not like her disruption, I guess. So Frenchko, she was disrupting the meeting by hurting the sheriff's feelings. I suppose she wasn't yelling, she wasn't doing anything. She was just talking about an issue, and she started criticizing the sheriff. This makes no sense, and it's a huge embarrassment that he couldn't take the heat so badly that he infringed on somebody's God-given rights. Not only is that humiliating, but it shows he doesn't care to infringe on people's rights to get his way, and that's scary. That's freaky. It just goes to show you that position is super important. The sheriff, you've got to have a good sheriff. So yeah, we're gonna finish up this story, and then we've got to talk about the World Economic Forum because they're trying to take away your morning cup of coffee. Yes. And I've got so much more planned for the 8 o'clock hour. I'm very excited. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. That's Cat Peterson 929. Smash that like button right now. Okay. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. And Henry, he's commenting this morning on the YouTube channel. You guys can find me there and on Facebook Live and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Cat Peterson 99. Dense fog this morning. Stay safe out there. Henry says, freedom of speech. I hope this woman sues them into the Stone Age. And that's exactly what is going to happen. So we're going to pick up right where we left off. A GOP official, she was arrested because she criticized the local sheriff, and like I said, I assumed the sheriff took an oath to protect the Constitution, which means he would have broken his oath because here in America we're not allowed to abuse our power and arrest people we don't agree with. Okay, that's not what we do here in America, and you broke your oath, dude. This officer, he arrests this woman. I played the clip for you. He got his feelings hurt. Here, according to Fox 8 News, a U.S. district judge has ruled a Trumbull County commissioner's constitutional rights were violated when her colleagues had arrested her during a public meeting after she criticized the sheriff. So she wasn't yelling, she wasn't like acting crazy. She just kind of disagreed with the sheriff and criticized him. And then the judge, he releases this 81-page opinion, and he says, here in America, we do not arrest our political opponents. This case tests that longstanding norm as well as our Constitution's robust protections for free speech that allow us to criticize our representatives and public officials. So the plaintiff here, Nikki Frenchko, she won to a 3-member board of county commissioners. So there's 3 members on this county board of commissioners, okay, in Trumbull County, Ohio. She won. She was an outsider. She was the only member of the county government from her political party. So she's the only Republican. And she was an outsider, and she won, and she used her position to needle the incumbents and, in her view, hold them accountable for their decisions. For their part, so the other county commissioners, the 2 other county commissioners, they viewed her as ignorant of basic workings of county government, and they thought she was a nuisance, to put it mildly. So that's a bit from the 81-page opinion from the judge, the district court judge, Philip Caprizi. And Frenchco, the woman who was arrested by the sheriff because she said some mean things about the sheriff, she was told that she was disrupting the meeting by hurting the sheriff's feelings. This makes no sense. And it's a huge embarrassment that he's not able to take the heat, and so badly to the point where he infringed on somebody's God-given rights. Not only is that humiliating, but it shows that he doesn't care to infringe on people's rights to get his way. And that's freaky. That's scary. And this happened in Ohio, Trumbull County, Ohio. The charge was later dismissed. So she was charged, arrested, and she filed a federal lawsuit. So Henry, she filed the lawsuit already last March, and she's represented by David Betrus and Matt Miller Novak. So Betrus, one of her attorneys, said that the federal judge found former Trumbull County Commissioner Frank and the current county commissioner Mario or Moreau or whatever, these two that worked with the sheriff to get her arrested. They found that the sheriff, these two county commissioners, two deputies, they willfully violated Nikki Frenchco's rights under the First and Fourth Amendments in the U.S. Constitution when they repeatedly attempted to silence her and prevent her from representing the interests of her constituents. The judge also stripped them of their sovereign immunity, which means they can be held individually liable for monetary charges. So she's going to get to sue each and every single one of them, the sheriff, the two commissioners, the two deputies individually. So this woman is going to be very, very rich by the end of this. So I hope the sheriff was fired because he broke his oath. And you'd have to be extremely stupid to not know that she was well within her rights to say what she wished during a meeting, a public meeting. They're lying when they say she was disrupting the meeting. She was not disrupting the meeting. Those rules of, hey, disrupting the meeting, that's actually for unhinged hecklers who refuse to back down, not for elected officials in their meeting. She was actually in a meeting talking about a topic, and she disagreed with the sheriff on a topic. This is asinine, and it's asinine that that was their excuse, that she was disrupting the meeting. It's wild to me. They just wanted to silence her. So good for her. She's going to sue them, I'm sure, into oblivion, and I'm excited for that. All right, World Economic Forum. Like I said yesterday, for everything, if it's something that Americans enjoy, there's a progressive out there somewhere who wants to ban it. And I talked about the Zyn pouches yesterday. Chuck Schumer's out there wanting to ban these nicotine pouches that people, it's kind of like a can of dip, but it's just nicotine. And he wants to ban it. But the globalists, they found something that they want to take away from you, your morning coffee. So we're going to get to that. Plus, Donald Trump, he scored this awesome victory on Tuesday, but he also broke a record. And I want to explain, how awesome it is that he broke this record and how incredible that he did this in New Hampshire, of all places. So I do want to talk about that, and we'll get to this LA Times editor. He's all big mad because there's ex-Californians who are saying, oh, they'll leave the state of California, and then they'll be like, we hate it, and like they express disdain for California. And he's big mad because these ex-Californians are expressing disdain and anger for the state. And he says, you need to stop saying mean things about California. You need to stop saying that once you move. So we're going to get to that topic here also in the 8 o'clock hour. Let's first start with the World Economic Forum, because if it's something Americans enjoy, they're going to ban it, whether that be meat, gas stoves, whatever it is. If we like it, they're going to ban it, or they'll call it racist, but here it is, the annual Globalist conference out in Davos, Switzerland, the World Economic Forum. They all got together. And like I said, if it's something citizens enjoy anywhere, like freedom, for example, if you enjoy freedom, they're going to try to take that away. The World Economic Forum wants to take it away, and they're going to claim that it's going to make you happier. So you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. If you like owning your home, and if you like ownership of your car, they claim that, hey, you're going to be happier if you don't own it. You're going to be happier if you eat crickets and you don't eat meat. Okay, so what's the latest thing on this list where they're going to ban it? Coffee. I got my morning cup of coffee right here. Maybe you got yours in your cup holder driving to work. So Hubert Keller, is this Swiss banker who says he's passionate about sustainability, blah, 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 blah. And he says that your coffee is destroying the planet. At this point, what is it that do we enjoy at this point, what is it that isn't bad for the planet? Okay, so everything we enjoy is bad for the planet. Okay, our F-150s, the cars that actually work, by the way, that don't shut off when it gets below zero. the I just imagine these these Chicagoans, they're stuck at this EV charging station, this Tesla charging station, and they're stranded. And then they call up their F-150 friend and they're like, "Hey, buddy, can you come pick me up? I know your car will start." Right. Um, at this point, everything we enjoy is bad for the planet. Okay. But there is still no word about how much Hubert Keller, how much carbon his private jet emitted on his way to the World Economic Forum. But he did say this at the World Economic Forum. Let's take a listen here to what he says about coffee and how we need to stop drinking it because it's bad for the environment. Here we go.
I'd love just to give you the chance to expand on that.
Basically, the coffee that we all drink emits between 15 and 20 tons of CO2 per ton of coffee. So we should all know that this is every time we drink coffee, we are basically putting CO2 into the atmosphere. One of the reasons is because most of the coffee plantation or most of the coffee is produced through monoculture. And monoculture is also affected by climate change. The quality of these nature assets is deteriorating quite rapidly.
Oh boy. So there we have it, folks. Hubert Keller, he's a Swiss banker. He's passionate about sustainability. And this is where the left and the media, but I repeat myself, where they're going to dispatch their independent fact checkers, and they're going to claim that all of this is misinformation because the World Economic Forum does not make laws. They're just discussing. They're discussing ideas. Okay, they're not making laws. Okay, the independent fact checkers are going to be deployed by the left and by the media, and that was the excuse for the guy. There was a guy at the World Economic Forum where he bragged about digital carbon footprint trackers so that way they can track what you buy and where you go. And when he was confronted about this guy from the World Economic Forum by a journalist, he goes, "Oh, that was just an idea. It's just an idea. The World Economic Forum, we're discussing ideas. We're not making laws." The problem with the WEF is that they take those ideas, they find officials and bureaucrats that agree with them on these ideas, and then they place them in government so that they are turned into laws and policies. This is from Klaus Schwab himself. Okay, Klaus Schwab himself, I'm directly quoting. Here's my impression. "What we're very proud of is the young generation like Prime Minister Trudeau and so on. So we penetrate the cabinets. Half of Trudeau's cabinet are actually our young global leaders of the World Economic Forum." So he says half of the cabinet are World Economic Forum leaders, global leaders. And then he says that Justin Trudeau is a global leader as well. And he says we penetrate the cabinets. So it's not just an idea. The World Economic Forum, when they float the idea of genetically modifying humans to stop them from eating meat, so they want to genetically modify you so that way you don't crave things like meat, and they want to genetically modify humans to where they don't need protein anymore. That's not just an idea. Okay. Or to let AI decide who gets elected into office because people don't vote for the right people. And we want AI to decide our elections now. Okay. That's not just an idea. It's not just an idea when they want global digital currency so they can stop you from making purchases they find undesirable. They want to implement something like a digital currency, and they want to be able to track what you buy. And if you're buying something they find undesirable, they can stop you from buying it. These people want to control every aspect of your life. They're out, they're open about it, and they're even going to tell you how they do it. They penetrate the cabinets, they put in officials and bureaucrats who agree with these whacked out ideas like banning coffee. And it would behoove everyone to pay attention to what they do, because it's coming to a town near you. All right, I do need to take a quick break. You're listening to the Morning Buzz, Cities 92.9. I'll be right back. Good morning. Hey, welcome to the Morning Buzz. If you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. Share this out with your friends. We are going to be back talking a little bit about the World Economic Forum, and we're going to wrap that up. And then I want to talk about Trump scoring this victory on Tuesday. And then he also broke a record that was previously held by Bernie Sanders in 2016. So we'll chat about it here on the Buzz. And then also there is a new Illinois law that you need to know about if you're a parent of a K through 12th grader. A new Illinois law is going to recommend schools implement yearly health screenings for students enrolled in K through 12th grade. Spoke with Reagan Deering about this. She is a Mount Zion School board member. She's also a state house candidate. And she talked about how this is a new government expansion program and it's going to be phased in this fall. So we have got to chat about that. Smash the like button, share this out with your friends. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in each and every morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. You can always find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. We've got so many things to talk about, including a deal that Donald Trump, or a record that Donald Trump beat in the New Hampshire primary. He actually broke this record. Bernie Sanders was the guy who held this record in 2016, but he broke it. We're going to chat about that here in just a second. But first, I want to tell you guys about a deal. So, Crave hot dogs and barbecue. Okay, so pick up a $20 gift card for just $10 at our website. That's cities99.com. Click on Steal Some Deals so you can get a $20 gift card for Crave hot dogs and barbecue for just $10. And it's on Oakland Avenue right there in Bloomington, right across from State Farm. And they're offering jumbo style hot dog creations, including a Chicago style dog, a chili cheese dog, and you can wash it all down with the self pour wall. So this is where you can pour yourself a beer to wash down this craveable hot dog. If you want to find their complete menu, head to iwantcrave.com. Go to Steals and Deals on cities929.com. So here we go. Donald Trump, he scored a victory in New Hampshire, but he also set a new record. So the renowned pollster, Rich Barris, he pointed this out. Trump demolished the record for most votes ever cast for a presidential candidate in a New Hampshire primary. So this is incredible because the record was previously held by Bernie Sanders. We know that New Hampshire is a Democrat hellhole. Okay, so it's like 30% of the electorate is probably Republican, but Donald Trump beat this record. So in 2016, Sanders, he received 152,193 votes, crushing Hillary Clinton, by the way. Trump got well over that. He got like near 153,000 votes. So Trump, he's triumphing. He's triumphed over his only competitor, Nikki Haley, and this win further solidifies him as the GOP frontrunner. Nikki Haley, she doesn't think so. She told her supporters that, hey, this race is far from over. The only reason why Nikki Haley is still in is because she thinks that Donald Trump might get convicted, and that might lead her to some sort of path to the nomination, which is disturbing because that's not fair. It's not cool to win that way. If you win in a way where, they wrongfully convict a former president and they arrest political opposition and indict political opposition, I'm sorry, but you're a scumbag if you win that way. So she actually attempted to rally together an anti-Trump coalition made up of independents and Democrats in New Hampshire, and she lost, by the way. Okay, so she tried to impede his progress to solidify this nomination, and she failed. She lost. And I want to point this out. She's not the only one behind this whole rallying of anti-Trump coalition together. It's Reid Hoffman. Reid Hoffman is like a mini Klaus Schwab. He's a globalist, and they want to make Nikki Haley look like a moderate. And man, you should have heard Fox News. You should have heard the mainstream media. They were talking about Nikki Haley like she was going to be the vice president. First of all, I don't think that she's going to be, but the globalists and the establishment would like nothing more than to have Nikki Haley in there to undermine Trump's presidency if she's the VP, or they would like nothing more than to see Trump assassinated, and then Nikki Haley steps in as the president, and she is the America last pick. She is the globalist pick. She will get us into all kinds of wars, and they like that. Okay, the establishment, the globalists, they like that because they make all of the money when we're at war. They did this to JFK. JFK was a nationalist populist. He would not be provoked into war with Russia, despite the CIA, LBJ constantly giving him bad intelligence. And ultimately, they had to kill JFK because he just would not go to war. And they wanted LBJ, who escalated things in Vietnam. And the rest is history. So, like I said, Trump's victory. I mean, here we are. We have them working so hard to rig this thing against Donald Trump in a New Hampshire Republican primary. What do you think they're going to try in the general election? What do you think they're going to try? So, following his victory, Haley doubled down. She said that the race is far from over. I don't know. Hopefully, she has enough dignity to step out because she will lose South Carolina to Donald Trump, and that would be terrible because she's losing her home state. But the tradition of the Democrat Party is let's fix the elections. They're going to fix another election. And they went as far as to try to go to another primary or go to the other party's primary and rig it with these undeclared voters. And, with the help of the Rhino governor there and the dishonest effort to influence the primary, that uniparty still didn't win, by the way. So this just goes to show you, despite everything they're throwing at this guy, Donald Trump, they're cheating. They still lost. Okay, so there is hope. I don't know. He must have somebody looking out for him. Donald Trump does, because when they go to these lengths to try to rig a primary, and he still comes out like extremely victorious, that's awesome. We've got to take a quick break, but when we come back, the truth hurts, and that's an important lesson. But many people on the left, they have yet to learn that, okay, that the truth hurts. They're obsessed with trying to criminalize hate speech, so-called hate speech, and they want to control whose feelings you can and can't hurt, okay? So the reason the truth hurts so bad for these people on the left is because they'd rather live in La La Land and disregard reality. So this is true for this guy. He's an LA Times editor, Paul Thornton. He's all upset because people are being mean to California, the state of California. They're ex-Californians are insulting the state. They're insulting the government, and he's upset. And he's like, "Well, you're hurting my feelings, so you shouldn't be able to insult me or insult the state of California." So I'm going to be back talking about that. You're listening to The Morning Buzz. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. And if you want to be a part of the show, it's real simple. Just go ahead, text me at 309-451-9299. We've got to talk about a new state law. So the state is now recommending that Illinois schools implement this yearly mental health screening. So it's a yearly mental health screening for students enrolled in K through 12th grade. And this is a new law that recommends, keyword recommends, it doesn't mandate that Illinois schools do this. So your school may or may not opt into these mental health screenings. So I just spoke with Regan Deering. She's a school board member, Mount Zion school board member, and she's a state house candidate in the 88th district. And she said that the mental health screenings are a government expansion program being phased in this fall. And then you read the law a little bit. And I started to look at this, various schools, especially up north, right? The Chicago suburbs, they're already opting into this. Now, there's a variety of schools that have opted into this, and they opted into the comprehensive sex standards. And that was the last big conversations we had about, curriculum, surveys, things like that, and how they're being implemented in public schools. But I've got concerns, Deering's got concerns about this partnership with the state and the people who are administering these mental health surveys. So the Illinois Youth Survey, it can be administered to high schoolers and to middle schoolers, and you can administer it in both public and private schools. And the survey asks questions about gender, drug use, and family dynamics. They're kind of invasive, these questions. So one question, for example, is asked of Illinois eighth graders, is there an adult other than your parent you could talk to about important things in your life? So right there, I don't like the suggestive nature of this question, suggesting that you should have an adult in your life other than your parent that you talk to. It's kind of driving a wedge between you and the parent as a student. And Deering, she said, you know what? It's one thing to have this recommended survey across all the schools, and the taxpayers are funding it, right? By the way, this survey that they're going to implement in some schools, you can opt in. I would contact your school board members and ask them if they are opting in and urge them to not opt in if you feel that these surveys are inappropriate. If you want links to the survey, I can share that link with you where you can read the surveys, and there's even an opt-out form as a parent. So even if your school opts in, you can opt out as a parent. I'll get to that here in just a second. But Regan Deering, she says, look, there's a gold standard to mental health profession, okay? And we should have mental health professionals doing this evaluation, or we should have a professional evaluation, okay? Issuing these surveys, if an informal staff member issues this survey, it could be problematic. So this survey, it talks about things like suicide, drug use, and could be triggering to students in the classroom. So say they sit down first day of school and their first period, their teacher administers this survey. This survey is invasive and it could trigger some students. And obviously the teacher is not a mental health professional. That could cause some problems, right? So Regan Deering, she said, my main concern is that this is not being administered by a mental health professional. This is being administered and delivered by people who are informal. And she asked her own superintendent. So she's a school board member. So therefore she works for you. And she questioned the superintendent. And he said, I hadn't heard of these surveys, and the administration is not intending to utilize the Illinois Youth Survey. So I would ask, your school board member to act on your behalf and get your superintendent to answer if they are going to be implementing these surveys. These are mental health screenings, and I don't know. I think it's odd that we're doing these yearly or they're mandating, or not mandating, they're recommending these guidelines that these schools participate in the mental health screenings. And it's odd that the state has partnered with the University of Illinois on this. So they've got a Center for Prevention and Research and Development, and I guess the data can be accessed by school administration and by the center so the University of Illinois Center, the research team. And Regan, she said that she's glad that this is only a recommendation and it's not a mandate. Every family situation is different, and of course, staff and administration want well-rounded students. We do want that, and this is what Deering says. I do see the value of having a discussion about taking care of our kids and how that's important, but this is a slippery slope. You're having legislators take a stance and push these surveys into public schools. And there's parents who are saying, hey, this is a big shift. You're more concerned about my kids' feelings and their mental health, and you're not doing your job as an educator. My kid can't do basic math. Okay. My kid can't do basic addition, division, and they're coming home and they're failing in school, but you seem to have taken a liking in their mental health and in their feelings. And really, I believe that's my right, and that's my responsibility as their parent to make sure that they are, physically healthy and that they are mentally healthy. And I will seek out my own therapist if my child needs a mental health evaluation from a professional that I choose. I don't want, sorry, no offense, an informal teacher administering such a invasive survey. So, how did we pay for this here in the state of Illinois, you ask? Well, with ESSER funds. So ESSER funds, that's the COVID dollars, and those are set to expire in September of 2024. So it's unclear how they plan to pay for these surveys, because you got to pay all the coordinators, right? Each school is going to have an Illinois youth survey coordinator. You got to pay for that. You got to pay the research team, the data team for coming up with these questions, and there is a way to opt out, and you have to make it very clear to your district. You have to fill out a form, and you have to bring that form with your signature on it to the Illinois survey coordinator, and that survey coordinator is going to ensure that your child does not participate in the survey. If you don't fill out the form, okay, now they're not going to tell you about this. I'm sure that the schools aren't going to tell you about this survey. You just have to be proactive as a parent, and you have to figure out what the survey says, and you have to get the form to opt out if you want to opt out. And if you don't opt out, and if you don't sign that form and turn it in, then by default, your child has to participate in this survey. The other thing about this law that I want to talk about, this is a new law, and it says, hey, schools, we're going to recommend that you issue these mental health screenings and that children go through mental health screenings. The other thing about this law, the law also says that minors ages 12 through 17 have the right to assess and authorize the release of their own mental health records. Parents have rights to the minor's records only if that minor does not object, or if the therapist has a compelling reason to override that minor. So that's what this law says. You don't have access to the data. Okay. Now, who does have access to the data of these surveys? It would be school administration and the data research team who creates the survey. But if your minor does not want you reading their data, then they have the right to not authorize their release to you, the parent. And we've given authority to 12 through 17-year-olds to assess and authorize the release of their mental health records. So that's this law. Check out the whole story on cities99.com or thecentersquare.com. Also, when we come back, I'm going to tell you a little bit about an LA Times editor. His name's Paul Thornton, and he's imploring ex-Californians to stop insulting the state. So this was a hilarious column. And he wants people to stop insulting California after they leave. We know that 800,000 Californians moved in 2022, thousands more left in 2023, and they are fleeing the state, much like Illinois. So we're going to be back here on the other side. This is the Morning Buzz. Good morning. Hey, if you're watching, smash that like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Kat Peterson 929. Coming up, we're going to be talking with Kev Ferris. Kev Ferris from Speechless on Cities 92.9, which you can catch right here on Sundays from 3 to 5. He's going to be joining me on the line now. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz, and right over there is Kev Ferris from Speechless Cities 92.9. This is the Morning Buzz, and Speechless is Sundays from 3 to 5. Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
How's it going, Kat? It's great to be talking with you. It's been a while since I've been on the Morning Buzz, but a lot has happened. As you know, what you've been calling, and I will admit you were right, Ron DeSantis has dropped out, and it is likely Donald Trump will be the nominee for the Republican Party this upcoming year.
Now, you're a Ron fan. You were a Ron fan.
So here's the thing. I'm still a Ron fan. I think Ron DeSantis is the greatest governor in at least my lifetime in the United States. And at least out of all the current governors, he is the best governor. He is somebody who has proven time and time again that he can get results, and he delivers on his promises. And I think there's something very commendable about that. It shows that he absolutely should have a great future within the Republican Party. Obviously, a lot of voters see that Donald Trump needs a chance in the White House to get not only to finish some of the work that he started, but also to adapt to the current political landscape and learn from some of the things that he didn't even realize going in, how deep the swamp is and how strong the uniparty is, and being able to fight against that is something that a lot of people feel he deserves another chance too. And I'm not against that. You know, I've always been clear too that Donald Trump is not a bad candidate for president. I just wanted somebody who was a little bit younger and had more years, would have 2 full terms. And so Donald Trump doesn't have 2 full terms. He has 4 years left if he gets reelected, which I firmly believe he will. And I'll be doing everything in my power to make sure that it's him, not Nikki Haley, and that he wins against Joe Biden come November.
Hey, we agree on never Nikki. Before we take the break, I do want to ask you, did you see the tweet? No, people were like, Kat, how could you be so mean to Ron? And I get it. I think he's the best governor. I really do in the nation. Yeah. When you look at his track record, it's good. I mean, there's some things, but nobody's a perfect legislator, right? Or a perfect politician. But I said, if he doesn't get out of this race, I don't like that, because you're not losing gracefully. There was no path to victory after Iowa. And, I play this game chess, right? When you're playing chess with somebody, you lay down that king. It's a game. It's a thing of grace. You can't be a sore loser about it. But this tweet, did you see the tweet where he came out and talked about, hey, the guy who holds the veto power?
Yeah. So I did a lot of research into this one. And so I have kind of interesting opinions on this, because I did the research. And so all of it that it's based on is some like kind of throwaway legislation that a state rep in Florida put forward that basically said that the bills, like all of Trump's legal bills, would be covered by, at least in the state of Florida, would be covered by the state of Florida, which I think is stupid legislation when it comes to it should not be on the burden of the taxpayer for those legal bills. And while I believe that the charges against him are patently idiotic and shouldn't be there in the first place, it's not at the fault of the taxpayer.
Yeah,
it's at the fault of a corrupt government. And so I think the legislation itself was stupid. And then when it comes to Ron DeSantis' tweet, I can understand probably some hard feelings being there. I mean, Donald Trump went after Ron hard, and now there's like a very large amount of Trump supporters that incorrectly believe that DeSantis is part of the swamp. When there's no evidence to prove that, especially when the swamp has gone repeatedly after DeSantis, not as hard as Trump, but still pretty hard. And so I don't think that tweet was necessary. I think that it only caused further division in the party, but I can understand why he would send it.
All righty. Well, we are going to, we've got to cut to break. That's the end of the show. But Kev Ferris, tell us a little bit about how we can find Speechless.
Yeah, just all you got to do is Google Speechless with Kev, and you should be able to find my YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, share. I also now have a new Instagram, just Speechless Kev, and that's pretty much what I'm going to be on everything. Starting TikTok up and really growing the brand on social media. And so if you want to spread the messages, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment, everybody.
Yes. All right, Kev, you have a great rest of your Thursday. And folks, bye-bye. I love you. And Glenn Beck is up after me.